Hey everyone, Sav Drives back here with another video, and today I'm reviewing the 2001 C5 Corvette. First off, I'd like to start this video and talk a little about the interior of this car before I jump into more details around this car. So this car has gotten a lot of, or you see this a lot online about, negative comments about the interior quality, etc. I actually beg to differ. Yes, it's mostly plastics, but I mean, it's not completely worn out or melted. It's actually aged quite well. I mean, this car is back from 2001 and it's still really holding up. I mean, if you look anywhere in this interior, it doesn't really look all that worn out. Besides just this part of the steering wheel where the airbag is, that does look a little worn here. But other than that, I mean, it's really holding up pretty well. Most of these buttons, are in great condition. Nothing's really sticky or melting or any of that. And I really do appreciate the choice of materials here. It actually reminds me a lot about, Toyotas. Their interior holds up pretty well. I mean, it's mostly plastics, but it does hold up well. And there isn't, a ton of flex here on any of these panels, really. I mean, they're all large single-piece panels, like this one goes all the way around, and there really isn't much flex. It feels well built, this car, and yeah, I don't really quite understand why there's this connotation of, oh, GM's interior is very, or feels very cheap. I mean, from a car from 01, I think this is actually pretty good. I've honestly seen modern cars today with worse quality, so let's just get that one out the way. Let's actually let me start this car right up here. So beautiful engine sound. As you know, of course, I'm filming a YouTube video, and the car decided to give an engine light right before I start filming, which is, typical. Whenever you film a YouTube video, stuff just has to go wrong. It's just the way it is. Moving on, let me talk a little more about the interior. So the air conditioning system in this car is excellent. I mean, this thing is ice cold. It works really, really well. GM has, nailed that. I think they have that on a lot of their cars, and they actually do a good job. The sound system is decent, even though it is a Bose sound system, even though it's back from 01. It's decent. I wouldn't say it's great, especially with an aftermarket system like this. I think you would need to install an amp to get a little more quality out of the sound. One thing I really do love about this car is it has a heads-up display down there. It's a little hard to see here in this lighting, but some really cool thing about it is you can pull up your car's running temperature and scroll through here, and you can move the display. So you could pull like the oil temperature or the car's temperature on the side of the reading there, which is really cool. One thing I don't completely like is how cramped the interior kind of is on this side. There isn't a lot of space. It is a little challenging to get to the buttons for your seats down there, and they're way down there. But one really cool thing is it has two separate areas where you can control the bolster in your back, and it makes it really comfortable. The seats of this car are definitely one of the highlights of it. I really do like the seats in this car. They are comfortable, and I could definitely see myself going on road trips in this with no issues. Down here, these buttons are actually like in one membrane, kind of like a rubber membrane covering all these buttons. So I'm pretty sure this is waterproof, because there's no way water will go through these. There aren't any openings really, which is a plus side. On the downside, they do feel very mushy. As you can see, there's a lot of like space before you get to the actual button. So that's just one thing to note here. They don't feel great. I'm not gonna lie, they're really not my favorite in terms of actual feel, but they're functional, and they're great car buttons to have. Another thing I really do love about this car is the pop-up headlights. I know a lot of people are not a fan of them, and so many people will install like fixed headlights. I actually think that's one of the coolest parts about this car, because when they're down, you get the extra aerodynamics, and the car looks very smooth. It looks like one, smooth piece of engineering, and I really love that, especially at night when you're driving and you pop those headlights up like that. It really does look kind of like a Batmobile. It gives you that really cool feeling, and the shape of the headlights from the inside actually looks very menacing. I really like those. Definitely a very cool part of this car. But let's pop the hood here and take a look at the engine and talk a little more about that. So stepping out here, popping the hood. Alright, so this car has a 5.7 liter V8. This is an all aluminum engine. It's pushing about 350 horsepower and 375 foot-pounds of torque. This car is a 6-speed manual, and the performance is actually quite great. 0 to 60 is in about 4.5 seconds, and for a car from '01, that's still excellent performance, even by today's standards. This car's chassis was actually hydroformed, and it's very structurally rigid, and that's one of the coolest features of this car. Let me close this hood down just so you can hear me better. One of my subscribers told me to close this from the center so I don't have to close both sides, and that was an excellent tip because I used to push each side separately. But looking more at the lines of the car here, this one's in pewter gray, very aggressive styling and lining. I just love the overall smooth look of this car. Everything looks so seamless and smooth with the lines, especially with those headlights down. I think it is a great timeless design, especially in this color. Very good looking car in my opinion. Moving on to the back here, this is similar with most of the Corvettes. It has a very wide back. I love these round taillights. Unfortunately, newer Corvettes no longer have that, but I do think that is a very timeless part in this car's design. Always looks great in my opinion. This has custom, titanium tips exhaust, which also looks very cool. Has those blue ends on them. I think it looks great, and it sounds great, and I'll be putting more segments on how this sounds later on in this video. So one of the downsides of having these round taillights is dirt and gunk will always end up here inside the taillights, and it's kind of hard to clean out, and it will always end up getting dirty down there. But that's a small price to pay for something that looks this great, right? Let me just pop the trunk here and talk a little more about that trunk space. So there's a trunk button right here, and it's electric. It does pop up, and once it's open, you have plenty of space here. It's almost identical to my C7. I mean, I might even argue that this one has more space, but I could be wrong. It does look more spacious in my opinion, and this opens here, I believe, where you can have some additional storage down there, which is a really cool part of this car. Really like the practicality of this car, and honestly, I mean, it's quite surprising that the sports car has this much practicality. You don't get that in other sports cars, really. Also with this design is the transmission was also moved back closer to the rear for better balancing, and that's another really cool touch. This top actually does come off on the coupe. One really cool part of this design is, as you can see, that top looks completely black, but once I step back into the car over here and take a look up, you can actually see through this roof, and it's kind of a blue finish up there, and I think that's just a really neat touch here on this car. So jumping back in the car, let me take it here for a quick spin and give some of my thoughts on it. Right, it's kind of like an old style seatbelt in here. One other cool thing is you can disable the active handling here, and I love how they put a little picture of a Corvette down here, and then you can also lock over here you can lock your center console using your car keys, which is also a very neat touch. Okay, moving on. First things first, I did replace this shifter with a B&M shifter. I did not really like the stock one. It is too light. Like, it's so ridiculously easy to shift, and I wanted a little more resistance with a short shifter, so I went with this B&M shifter here. And you know, it feels great because you could really like push on it in a sense. So let me talk a little about the things I you know, enjoy about this car the most, and the things that I really don't like as much. First things first, I think the engine in this car is absolutely incredible. I mean, the performance coming out of this engine is just outstanding. I mean, it really does not feel like an older car. I have a tuned C7. I've driven some really fast cars, including, you know, 911 Turbo S, and this car still manages to be a lot of fun. It's quite deceiving. When you look at it, you know, you'd think, oh, okay, this is a car from 2001. The performance may be decent, but, you know, it's not gonna win any races. You know, I disagree. This car is really feels really quick, really fun, and I'm sure if it was, you know, tuned a bit, it would be absolutely, you know, insane. And I love that about this car. The steering, even though it does look, you know, antiquated in a sense, it does feel great when you're turning. It is very precise. Has a great feel, but of course it's nothing in comparison to more modern, you know, cars or more modern Corvettes in terms of the steering feel. So my C7 definitely feels, you know, tons more precise. It definitely feels lighter than this car, even though they aren't that far off each other in terms of weight. The C7 definitely feels much more light and much more dialed in. But that's not to say that this car does not feel like a fun sports car. So one of the downsides of this car that I think affects this driving experience a bit is the suspension. The suspension is a leaf style suspension, and it's, you know, jokingly, the joke back then was, you know, this car has the same suspension as a tractor. That's not really wrong, right? It does use the leaf style suspension, and that suspension is not a very you know, it's not very sporty, like, just to put it plain and simple. And when you go over bumps with this car, you really do feel those bumps. So one thing, you know, I would highly recommend if you're going for this car and, you know, you're gonna really like keep it for a long time and you really want to enjoy it more, is I would strongly consider investing in coilovers and changing this suspension system out, because I honestly think that is the Achilles heel of this car. It is the only thing that, you know, could have been done better. Yes, you can daily drive it. This one has the leaves. It's not like upgraded or anything, and they're just they don't feel great. And when you're cornering, yes, the car actually handles really well, but you could tell that has, you know, an effect on it a bit. So that's something that I think is one of the major downsides of this car. But, you know, for the prices that these ones are going for today, this car is more than just like a bargain. This car is like a steal at the prices they're selling for today. I mean, it is absolutely wild to even think that you can get this much performance at this price point with a car like this. So in terms of the practicality also when it comes to that is this car does actually do 19 mpgs in the city and 27 on the highway. And again, that is kind of crazy, right? This is a 5.7 liter V8 engine. I mean, this is not a small engine by any means, and it is a V8, and it still is able to do quite well in terms of fuel economy And I think that's just, you know, a great part when it comes to this car. It's one of those added bonuses that you get with this car. So if you just see how responsive this engine is, I'll put it in third here, and I'll be tapping the acceleration, and look. I mean, it is so responsive, so quick, and it just sounds incredible. And I really think they nailed it with this car in terms of the driving feel and the fun factor. Highly recommend this. So besides the really the downsides of the suspension, there isn't much more that I don't like about this car. I mean, this car again is over 20 years old, and even sitting in it and driving it today, it doesn't feel like it's you know, dated, and also it has been quite reliable. I've fixed a few things on the car. Knock sensors were one item that I have on the list, which is the reason for that engine light, but that should be a simple fix. Those are common to go out on the C5s. Among you know, other issues, this car had an issue with the oil pump at one point. I had that repaired and replaced. But all these items, you know, when you fix them on this car, it is just really cheap to fix. It's not an expensive car to fix, not in terms of parts, not in terms of labor either. They're not really complicated, these V8 engines. They're easy to work on. Most shops are comfortable working on them, and they really don't charge a lot to fix issues on this car. This is not, at the end of the day, this is not you know, a European car. This is not a BMW where you get one issue and it might break the bank, right? And I'm not bashing on BMWs. I think they're excellent cars. I'm just talking in terms of ownership and reliability, fuel economy, fun, you know, fun driving experience, all of that. And this car nails all of these aspects. The headlights are an item that, yes, is of concern. It does break on these cars. It has broken on mine, and I had to change the headlight you know, module. But the headlight module was like $100, and you know, if your headlights malfunction, it's not like they're impossible to use. You can pop the hood, and there's actually a manual switch where you can manually pull them up or down. So Chevy has thought of those things, and they made it quite simple to address these issues in case you face a malfunction. And one of the very common things is also the bump stops over there can fail to where it goes up and down. But even that, they actually include extras where the headlight is if you pop the hood, which is kind of funny because it's almost like they knew that this might be an issue down the line, and they just decided to throw in extras in there for people. So overall, I mean, this car, again, is an outstanding value for money. I mean, completely outstanding. When I drove this, and I mean this very sincerely, I strongly considered selling my C7. Maybe because my C7 is an auto, but I mean, the fun factor in this car is just incredible. The way it bounces off the rev limiter, the way it shifts, the way it sounds, in my opinion, it does seem more fun than my auto C7. And a lot of times, I mean, to be honest, I drive this car more than my C7. I feel like there's a lot of things about this car that I like more. The only thing that I don't completely love is just the lack of interior space and the suspension, and these are the only two things that I would really change. So overall, thank you for watching. I will leave you with some segments of this car's driving experience and how it sounds. And please like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more. I'm always thinking of making, you know, more videos on more cars that come my way. And yeah, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.